billionaire CEO had everything but happiness. Until she turned his lonely world upside down. They called him Charleston's most eligible bachelor, but Lawrence Sebastian would have traded his entire billion-dollar fortune for one genuine conversation. At 36, he'd accomplished everything he was supposed to want: penthouse overlooking the harbor, company worth more than small countries, respect everywhere he went. But success without someone to share it with, he'd learned, was just loneliness with better furniture. He'd accepted that this was his life now. Alone. Accomplished. Empty. Then came the night. Champagne glasses almost crashed to the floor, and he looked up into the eyes of a woman who'd remind him what living actually felt like. Her name was Jessica Williams, and she was about to change absolutely everything. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. No rushing. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here, subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. The rain came down in sheets across Charleston's historic district, turning cobblestone streets into mirrors that reflected the glow of gas lamps. Lawrence Sebastian stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse office, phone pressed to his ear, watching the storm roll in from the harbor. Yes, the acquisition papers are ready for signature Monday morning, he said, his voice flat despite the multi-million-dollar deal being finalized. Send them to my assistant. He ended the call and set the phone on his mahogany desk. Silence rushed in to fill the space. It was 7:30 on a Friday evening in late March 2024, and the building below him was empty. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. To families. To friends. To lives that existed beyond spreadsheets and quarterly reports. Lawrence was 36 years old, born in 1988 to one of Charleston's oldest families. He'd built Sebastian Holdings into a billion-dollar empire by the time he turned 32. Forbes had called him a visionary. The Wall Street Journal had profiled his unprecedented success in commercial real estate development. His mother reminded him every Sunday dinner that money couldn't keep him warm at night. She wasn't wrong. His reflection stared back at him from the darkened window. Tall, lean build, dark blonde hair that was probably overdue for a trim. He looked successful. Polished. Exactly like what he was, a man who had everything except a reason to leave the office. The phone on his desk buzzed. His assistant, Carol. Mr. Sebastian, your mother called again. She wants to know if you're coming to the charity gala tomorrow night. She said, and I quote, "Tell my son that hiding behind work is not a personality trait." Lawrence almost smiled. Almost. Tell her I'll be there. She also said to bring a date, but I told her that was above my pay grade. This time he did smile, brief as summer lightning. Good night, Carol. Good night, sir. Please go home. He should. He would. In a minute. Instead, he pulled up his calendar for tomorrow. The gala was at 7. Black tie. Benefiting the Arts Council. His mother was on the board, which meant attendance was non-negotiable. He'd go alone, write a check with enough zeros to make everyone happy, and leave early. The same script he'd been following for the past 6 years, ever since his engagement had ended in 2018 when he was 30. Ever since he'd realized that building something meaningful in his personal life required skills that quarterly earnings reports had never taught him. His phone buzzed again. Not Carol this time. A text from his college roommate, David. Stop working. It's Friday. The world won't end if you take a night off. Lawrence typed back, the world might not. My sanity might. 3 dots appeared, then, that's not the flex you think it is, man. He set the phone down and grabbed his jacket. David was right. Carol was right. His mother was especially right, though he'd never admit it. The penthouse was a 10-minute drive through rain-slicked streets. The doorman greeted him with the same polite nod he always did. The elevator rose silently to the top floor. The door opened to 4,000 square feet of designer furniture and carefully curated art. Empty. Quiet enough to hear his own heartbeat. Lawrence loosened his tie and poured 2 fingers of bourbon he wouldn't finish. The rain had picked up, drumming against the windows that overlooked Charleston Harbor. Somewhere out there, people were laughing. Falling in love. Building memories that mattered. He took out his phone and scrolled through contacts. Stopped on a name he hadn't called in months. Hovered his thumb over it, then kept scrolling. 3 contacts stood out because he actually used them: work, assistant, mother. He set the phone face down on the marble counter. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow he'd try harder. Be more present. Maybe even stay at the gala long enough to have a real conversation with someone. He finished half the bourbon and went to bed in a room that felt too large for one person. Across town, in a renovated loft above King Street, Jessica Williams was having a very different kind of Friday night. "No, sweetheart, you cannot wear your tutu to bed," she told her daughter, Mia, while simultaneously responding to a client email on her phone. "We talked about this." "But Mama, it's my favorite." Jessica looked up from her screen into the most persuasive brown eyes that had ever existed. Mia was 5 years old and had already mastered the art of negotiation that would probably make her a lawyer someday. "Compromise," Jessica said, sitting on the edge of Mia's bed. "You can wear it over your pajamas until story time ends. Deal?" Mia considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. "Deal." Jessica smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. Mia smelled like the lavender soap they used at bath time and the strawberry toothpaste she'd insisted on getting at the store. She smelled like home. At 33 years old, born in 1991, Jessica had learned that home wasn't a place. It was moments like this. Small negotiations over tutus. Bedtime stories read in funny voices. The weight of her daughter's head against her shoulder. She'd been 27 when she had Mia, fresh out of a relationship that had ended the moment she saw 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. She'd been terrified. Broke. Working 60-hour weeks as a junior marketing associate while finishing her MBA at night. Now, 6 years later, she owned Williams Creative Consulting. Small but growing. 3 employees. Clients who actually respected her vision. An office downtown that she decorated herself with prints from local artists and a coffee maker that could probably fund a small country. She was proud of what she'd built. Exhausted, but proud. "Mama, you're not reading. You're thinking." Jessica blinked and looked down at the book in her lap. The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Mia's current obsession. "You're right, baby. I'm sorry. Let's see what this caterpillar is up to." She read with all the dramatic flair Mia required, doing different voices for each food item. By the time the caterpillar became a butterfly, Mia's eyes were heavy. "Love you, Mama," she whispered, already half asleep. "Love you more," Jessica whispered back. She turned off the light and pulled the door mostly closed, leaving it open just enough that the hallway light could creep in. Mia didn't like complete darkness. Said it made her feel too alone. Jessica understood that feeling. In the kitchen, she reheated coffee that had gone cold 3 hours ago and opened her laptop. The client proposal was due Monday. The gala she'd been hired to provide marketing consultation for was tomorrow night. The laundry needed folding. The dishes needed washing. Her mother had called twice, which meant there was either gossip to share or concern to express. Jessica chose the proposal. Everything else could wait. Her phone rang. "Mom." Ma. Don't hi ma me like you've been calling regularly. I haven't heard from you in 4 days. I called you Sunday." 4 days, Jessica Marie." Jessica smiled despite herself. Her mother, Diane Williams, had a way of making guilt sound like love. It was a gift. "I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. Good crazy, but crazy. Too busy for your own mother. I see how it is." A pause. "How's my grandbaby?" "Asleep. In a tutu over her pajamas because she's inherited your negotiation skills." Diane laughed, rich and warm. "That's my girl. Both of you. Listen, I'm calling because Mrs. Patterson's daughter is having a thing next weekend and she asked if you could come. Single lawyer. Nice teeth. Good job." "Ma, no. I'm just saying." "I know what you're just saying, and the answer is still no. I don't have time for dating." "You don't make time. There's a difference." Jessica rubbed her temples. This conversation happened once a month like clockwork. Her mother meant well. She wanted Jessica to have partnership, companionship, someone to share the load. Jessica wanted those things too, in theory. In practice, she had a business to run and a daughter to raise and approximately 4 hours of sleep per night to work with. "I appreciate you thinking of me," Jessica said carefully. "But I'm good right now." "Really?" Diane sighed. "Okay, baby. Just remember you're allowed to want things for yourself too." They talked for another 10 minutes about nothing important and everything that mattered. Mia's upcoming dance recital. Diane's book club drama. The weather. By the time they hung up, Jessica's coffee was cold again and the proposal wasn't writing itself. She worked until midnight, fell into bed still wearing her clothes, and dreamed of nothing she could remember. The next morning, Lawrence woke to sunlight streaming through windows he'd forgotten to cover. He'd slept 4 hours, which was actually better than usual. Coffee. Shower. The Wall Street Journal on his tablet while his chef-prepared breakfast went mostly untouched. He hadn't hired a chef. The service came with the building, like the doorman and the valet parking and the persistent sense that he was living someone else's life. At noon, his mother called. "Lawrence, darling. You're still coming tonight, yes?" "Yes, Mother." "Wonderful. I've seated you at table 4. Lovely people. The Harrisons will be there, and Judge Chen, and that new gallery owner everyone's talking about." Translation: potential business contacts and eligible women she could mention casually in conversation later. "I'll be there at 7, he said. 6:30 for cocktails." 7, Mother. She knew better than to push. "Fine. 7. But don't you dare leave before the auction. I worked very hard on those packages." He promised he wouldn't, knowing he probably would, and spent the rest of the afternoon doing exactly what Carol and David had told him not to do, working. By 6:45, he was in a tuxedo that cost more than most people's monthly rent, driving toward the historic Charleston Foundation building where the gala was being held. Jessica arrived at 6:15 with her portfolio, her phone, and a dress she'd bought on sale 3 years ago that still looked elegant enough for events like this. She wasn't attending as a guest. She was working, consulting with the event coordinator on social media strategy and real-time engagement. But she'd learned that showing up in business casual to black tie events made people take her less seriously, so here she was in heels that were already hurting and a dress that fit perfectly because she hadn't had time to eat lunch. "Jessica, thank God you're here." Rachel, the event coordinator, rushed over with a clipboard and a panic that suggested things were going very wrong. "The photographer canceled last minute and we need someone capturing content for Instagram. Can you do it?" Jessica had approximately 73 other things to do tonight. Of course. She spent the next hour moving through the growing crowd, capturing the chandeliers dripping with crystals, the champagne towers, the women in gowns that cost more than her monthly office rent, the men in tuxedos discussing things that probably moved markets. This was Charleston's elite. Old money and new wealth mixing under the banner of charity. She didn't belong here, not really, but she'd learned to move through these spaces with confidence that looked like belonging. Her phone buzzed. Mia's babysitter, confirming bedtime had gone smoothly. Jessica smiled and sent back a heart emoji, then returned to work. At 7:05, Lawrence walked through the doors and immediately regretted it. The room was too loud, too bright, too full of people who wanted pieces of him he didn't know how to give. His mother spotted him immediately and waved from across the room. He made his way toward her, stopping every few feet to shake hands and exchange pleasantries that meant nothing. "Lawrence, darling." His mother, Lawrence Sebastian, kissed both his cheeks. "You look handsome. Miserable, but handsome." "I'm not miserable. You're your father's son. Same face when you're pretending to enjoy parties." She linked her arm through his. "Come. Let me introduce you to people who might make you actually smile." He let himself be led because resistance was futile, and besides, he'd promised to stay through the auction. Jessica was adjusting her camera settings when someone bumped her from behind. She stumbled forward, directly into the path of a waiter carrying a tray of champagne glasses. Time slowed. The tray tilted. And Lawrence Sebastian, who had reflexes built from years of competitive tennis he no longer played, reached out and caught 3 glasses before they hit the ground. He looked up. Jessica looked up. Their eyes met over crystal and champagne, and something shifted in the air between them. Something neither of them had words for yet. "I'm so sorry," Jessica said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Someone pushed an eye. Are you hurt?" His voice was different than she expected. Warmer. No, I'm fine. Just embarrassed." She took the glasses from his hands, fingers brushing his for half a second. "Thank you, Lawrence Sebastian." He extended his hand properly now. "Jessica Williams." She shook it, professional and brief. His mother appeared beside him like a homing missile. "Oh my goodness, what happened? Is everyone all right?" "Fine, Mother. Just an accident." Margaret looked between them with eyes that missed nothing. "Jessica Williams. You're the marketing consultant Rachel hired. She's been raving about your work." Jessica smiled, genuine this time. "That's kind of her to say. Do you know my son? We just met. Through a near champagne disaster." "How perfectly dramatic." Margaret smiled. "Well, any friend of Rachel's is someone Lawrence should know better. Don't you think, darling?" Lawrence recognized a setup when he saw one. "Mother, I should get back to work," Jessica said quickly. "Lovely to meet you both." She disappeared into the crowd before either of them could respond, leaving Lawrence holding empty air where her hand had been and his mother looking far too pleased with herself. "Interesting," Margaret said. "Don't. I'm not doing anything. You're thinking something." I'm always thinking something. It's what keeps me young. She patted his arm. Go mingle. Make an old woman proud. He did mingle. He wrote a check with enough zeros to fund the Arts Council for a year. He stayed through the auction like he'd promised. But 3 times during the night, he found himself scanning the crowd for a woman in a navy dress with a camera and a smile that had felt like the first real thing he'd encountered in months. And across the room, Jessica told herself she was looking through her camera lens for good shots. Not looking for him. Definitely not. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 3 weeks later, in mid-April 2024, Lawrence was back in his office reviewing contracts when Carol knocked on his door. Mr. Sebastian, you have a meeting with Williams Creative Consulting in 15 minutes. Conference room B. He looked up from his laptop, confused. I don't remember scheduling that. Carol gave him a look that suggested his memory wasn't the issue. Your mother scheduled it. She wants to revamp Sebastian Holdings' public image, and apparently Jessica Williams is the person to do it. Of course she did. Lawrence sat back in his chair and tried not to smile. His mother's interference was usually annoying, but this particular manipulation was so transparent it almost impressed him. Fine. Send her up when she arrives. She's already here. Early, actually. Been in the lobby for 10 minutes reviewing notes. Something about that detail pleased him more than it should. He stood and grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Let's not keep her waiting then. Jessica was indeed reviewing notes, but mostly she was giving herself a pep talk. This was the biggest potential client her firm had ever landed. Sebastian Holdings had billions in assets, developments across the Southeast, and a CEO whose name carried weight in every room he entered. She'd done her research. Lawrence Sebastian, 36, took over his family's struggling real estate company at 28 and transformed it into an empire. Graduated top of his class from Princeton. Known for being brilliant, fair, and intensely private. No social media presence. Rarely gave interviews. The business world respected him. The society pages speculated about him. And she'd nearly knocked him over with champagne 3 weeks ago. Professional. She needed to be completely professional. The conference room door opened and he walked in, somehow taller than she remembered. He wore a charcoal suit that fit perfectly, no tie, top button undone. He looked less formal than at the gala. More real. Ms. Williams. Thank you for coming. He extended his hand. She stood and shook it, firm and brief. Mr. Sebastian. Thank you for the opportunity. Please, sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. They sat across from each other at a table designed for 12. The space felt too large and somehow too intimate at the same time. Lawrence opened the folder Carol had prepared. I'll be honest. This meeting was my mother's idea. Jessica's heart sank. Oh. But, he continued, looking up at her, I've reviewed your portfolio since then. Your work is impressive. The campaign you did for the Gibby's Museum increased their attendance by 40%. The Riley Waterfront project gained community support largely because of your PR strategy. Those results speak for themselves. Relief loosened the tension in her shoulders. I appreciate you saying that. My mother may have made the introduction, but I'm the one who decides who we work with. So let's forget how we got here and focus on whether this makes sense for both of us. She liked him. Professionally speaking, of course. He was direct without being dismissive. Confident without being arrogant. Jessica pulled out her tablet and opened her presentation. I've prepared some preliminary ideas based on Sebastian Holdings' current market position and public perception. For the next 30 minutes, they discussed branding strategy, community engagement, and how to humanize a billion-dollar corporation without seeming calculated. He asked intelligent questions. Challenged her assumptions in ways that made her refine her thinking. Listen when she pushed back. By the time she finished, she'd almost forgotten to be nervous. This is excellent work, Lawrence said, reviewing the proposal she'd sent to his tablet. Especially the focus on sustainability and community investment. Those align with directions I've wanted to take the company but haven't had the bandwidth to develop properly. So you're interested in moving forward? I am. Pending a few details we'll need to iron out, but yes. I'd like Williams Creative to handle our public relations and marketing strategy. Jessica kept her expression professional, but inside she was screaming. This contract would triple her revenue. Allow her to hire more staff. Maybe even take a weekend off sometime before Mia graduated college. That's wonderful, she said calmly. I'll have my attorney draw up a contract proposal by early next week. Perfect. He stood, signaling the meeting's end, but paused. Can I ask you something off the record? Of course. At the gala, you were working. Do you ever attend those events just to enjoy them? The question caught her off guard. Honestly? No. I'm usually the one making sure everyone else enjoys them. He nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he suspected. That seems like it would get exhausting. It pays the bills. Is that enough? She blinked. No one ever asked her questions like that. It has to be. Something shifted in his expression, understanding mixed with something else she couldn't name. Well, for what it's worth, you're very good at what you do. Thank you. So are you, from what I hear. Being good at something and enjoying it aren't always the same thing. Jessica studied him, this billionaire CEO in his perfect suit, and realized he meant it. No. I suppose they're not. They stood there for a moment, the conversation having drifted far from business into territory neither had intended to explore. Carol's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Sebastian, your 2 o'clock is here. The spell broke. I'll let you get back to your day, Jessica said, gathering her things. Thank you again for this opportunity. I'll have my attorney contact yours next week. They shook hands again, and this time she noticed he held on for just a second longer than necessary. Or maybe she imagined it. She was definitely imagining it. 2 weeks later, in early May, the contracts were signed and Jessica was back in Sebastian Holdings for their first official strategy meeting. This time, Lawrence had invited his senior team, his CFO, his head of development, and his communications director who Jessica would be working with directly. The meeting was productive and professional. They established timelines, deliverables, approval processes. Jessica presented a 6-month roadmap that impressed everyone in the room. After everyone else filed out, Lawrence lingered. Do you have a few minutes? He asked. There's something I'd like to run by you. Personal project, not company related. Sure. He seemed almost nervous, which was strange to see on someone so typically composed. I'm planning a fundraiser for the fall. Benefits an organization that provides business grants to women entrepreneurs. It's something I've been involved with quietly for years, but I want to do something bigger. More visible. That's a great cause. I was hoping you might consult on it. Paid, of course. Separate from the Sebastian Holdings contract. Jessica's schedule was already packed, but something about the way he asked made her want to say yes. Tell me more. They spent the next hour discussing his vision. He wanted an event that felt accessible, not elitist. Something that celebrated the women who'd benefited from the grants. He talked about a single mother who'd launched a catering business, a veteran who'd opened a bookstore, a teacher who'd created an after-school program. He spoke about them with genuine pride, like their success mattered to him personally. Why is this so important to you? Jessica asked. Lawrence was quiet for a moment. My grandmother started our family business in 1952 with a $500 loan and a lot of determination. No one took her seriously. Banks wouldn't give her the time of day. But she built something anyway, and it became the foundation for everything we have now. She sounds incredible. She was. She died when I was 15, but she told me something I've never forgotten. She said the only thing money is good for is opening doors that were closed. If you're not doing that, you're just collecting numbers in an account. Jessica felt something crack open in her chest. I like her philosophy. So you'll help with the fundraiser? I will. But I have a condition. He raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I want to bring my daughter to the planning meetings. She's 5, and I don't have childcare on weekday evenings. She's well behaved, I promise. She'll sit quietly with her coloring books. Lawrence didn't hesitate. Of course. That's not even a question. You say that now. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I have 3 nieces. I'm familiar with the concept of coloring books and negotiations over snacks. Mia could negotiate with heads of state. You've been warned. I look forward to it. They set their first planning meeting for the following Thursday evening at 6. Jessica left feeling lighter than she had in months, though she couldn't quite explain why. Thursday came faster than expected. Jessica arrived at Lawrence's office building with Mia in tow, carrying a backpack full of coloring books, crayons, and enough snacks to survive a small apocalypse. Remember what we talked about? Jessica said as they rode the elevator up. Inside voices. Polite manners. If you need something, ask me quietly. I know, Mama. I'm not a baby. The elevator doors opened directly into a reception area that made Mia's eyes go wide. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Charleston Harbor. The sunset painted everything gold and pink. Wow, Mia whispered. Yeah, Jessica agreed. Wow. Lawrence met them at the elevator, and Jessica watched his entire demeanor shift when he saw Mia. He crouched down to her level. You must be Mia. I'm Lawrence. Your mom told me you're an excellent coloring book artist. Mia nodded seriously. I stay inside the lines mostly. That's more than I can do. Maybe you can teach me sometime. Okay. Do you have puppies? Do I have puppies? To color. I only brought princess books, but puppies are good too. Lawrence looked up at Jessica with barely suppressed amusement. I don't have puppy coloring books in my office. That feels like an oversight now. Told you, Jessica said. Negotiations. He stood and gestured down the hall. I ordered pizza. Hope that's okay. Pepperoni and cheese. Mia, your mom mentioned you like pepperoni. It's my favorite. Mia took her mother's hand. He's nice, Mama. He is, Jessica agreed, meeting Lawrence's eyes. Very nice. They worked in his office rather than the conference room. Lawrence had cleared a side table for Mia, set up with paper and crayons he must have sent someone to buy. Mia settled in happily, occasionally offering commentary on their conversation. That's a lot of money, she said when Lawrence mentioned the fundraising goal. It is, he agreed seriously. But it will help a lot of people. That's good then. Jessica and Lawrence planned between pizza slices and interruptions. He was good with Mia, patient and genuine. When she announced she'd drawn him a picture, he examined it with the same focus he'd given the quarterly reports earlier that day. This is exceptional work. Is this me? That's you in your office being important. I love it. Can I keep it? Mia nodded, pleased. Jessica watched this interaction and felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Something that felt like wanting things she'd stopped letting herself want. By 8 o'clock, Mia was yawning and Jessica was packing up. Same time next week? Lawrence asked. Works for us. He walked them to the elevator. When the doors opened, Mia surprised everyone by hugging Lawrence's legs. Bye, Lawrence. Thanks for the crayons. He looked momentarily stunned, then his expression softened completely. You're very welcome, Mia. In the elevator going down, Mia leaned against her mother's side. I like him, Mama. Me too, baby. Is he going to be your friend? Jessica thought about how to answer that. Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Yes. He has a nice smile. He doesn't use it a lot, but when he does it's really nice. Jessica looked at her 5-year-old daughter and wondered when she'd gotten so perceptive. Yeah, she said softly. It really is. Over the next 3 weeks, Thursday evenings became the highlight of Lawrence's week. He told himself it was because the fundraiser planning was going well. The truth was more complicated than that. He'd started keeping coloring books in his office. Had his assistant order the kind of juice boxes Mia preferred. Found himself leaving work at 5:30 on Thursdays so he wouldn't miss a minute of their time together. Jessica noticed. How could she not? The way he listened when she talked, like her words mattered more than anything else in his day. The way he remembered details, her favorite coffee order, the client that had been stressing her out, the dance recital Mia had coming up. You're staring, her business partner and friend, Simone, said during a lunch meeting in late May. I'm not staring. You're looking at your phone with a smile that suggests someone texted you something better than a client approval. Jessica set her phone down. Lawrence had sent a photo of Mia's drawing hung in his office with the caption, "Best office decor I've ever had." It's not like that. What's it like then? He's a client. And a friend. That's all. Simone gave her a look that said she wasn't buying it. When's the last time you had a friend who made you smile like that? Jessica didn't have an answer. That Thursday, Mia fell asleep on Lawrence's office couch halfway through the meeting. Jessica covered her with her jacket and lowered her voice. I'm sorry. She had a big day at school. Don't apologize. She's welcome here anytime. You both are. Lawrence paused. Can I ask you something? Sure. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for Mia, not for work. Just for you. The question landed heavy. I don't know. A while. There's a gallery opening Saturday night. New artist, really incredible work. I was planning to go alone, but I'd enjoy it more with company. Would you want to come? Not as work. Just as two people who might enjoy art. Her heart kicked against her ribs. Like a date? Like whatever you want it to be. No pressure. Just a couple hours looking at paintings and drinking wine that pretends to be better than it is. She should say no. Should keep this professional. Should protect herself and Mia from complications. Okay, she heard herself say. I'd like that. His smile was everything Mia had said it was. Worth the risk. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. The gallery opening on Saturday night, June 1st, 2024, was nothing like Jessica expected. She'd arranged for Mia to stay with her mother, changed outfits 4 times, and given herself a stern talking to in the mirror about keeping expectations reasonable. This was just two friends appreciating art. Nothing more. Then Lawrence arrived at her door in dark jeans and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, holding a single peach-colored rose, and reasonable expectations went directly out the window. "You look beautiful," he said, and meant it in a way that made her forget how to breathe properly. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." The gallery was in a converted warehouse on the edge of the French Quarter, all exposed brick and dramatic lighting. The artist's work featured bold colors and abstract shapes that somehow felt deeply emotional. "What do you think?" Lawrence asked, standing beside her in front of a massive canvas of blues and golds. "I think it feels like wanting something you can't quite name." He turned to look at her instead of the painting. "Yeah. Exactly that." They moved through the gallery slowly, discussing each piece, and somewhere between the second and third room, his hand found hers. It felt natural. Right. Like something they'd been doing for years instead of minutes. "Tell me something about you I don't know," Lawrence said later, as they stood on the gallery's rooftop terrace overlooking the city lights. "That's a dangerous question." "I'll risk it." Jessica took a sip of wine, gathering courage. "I was terrified the day Mia was born. Not normal new parent terrified. Genuinely convinced I was going to ruin this perfect little person's life because I had no idea what I was doing." "What changed?" "Nothing changed. I'm still terrified most days. But she smiles at me like I'm her whole world, and I just keep trying not to let her down." Lawrence was quiet for a moment. "You're an incredible mother. I hope you know that." "I'm a tired mother who serves cereal for dinner more often than I should." "You're a mother who built a successful business while raising a daughter alone. Who shows up for every moment that matters. Who's teaching her that women can be strong and successful and loving all at once." He paused. "That's not small." Jessica's throat tightened. "Your turn. Tell me something I don't know." He looked out at the harbor, considering. "I haven't been on a real date in 6 years. Since my engagement ended in 2018 when I was 30. I convinced myself I was too busy, that work was enough. Truth is, I was scared of letting someone see the parts of me that aren't successful or put together." "What parts are those?" "The parts that come home to an empty penthouse and wonder what the point of any of it is. The parts that built an empire but forgot to build a life." She set down her wine glass and turned to face him fully. "For what it's worth, I like those parts. The real ones. Even though they're messy? Especially because they're messy. Perfect is boring." Lawrence smiled, that rare full smile that transformed his face. "You're not what I expected, Jessica Williams." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. But not someone who makes me want to leave work early. Not someone who makes me keep coloring books in my office and look forward to Thursday nights more than million-dollar deals." Her heart was doing dangerous things in her chest. "Lawrence. I know this is complicated. I know you have Mia to think about and a business to protect. I know I'm probably the last thing you need in your life right now." "You're not the last thing." "No. No." She stepped closer. "You're actually becoming a very important thing. Which terrifies me. Because I don't have room in my life for things that don't work out. Because Mia is already attached to you. Because if this goes wrong, it's not just my heart that breaks." Lawrence reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his hand lingering against her cheek. "What if it doesn't go wrong?" "That's a big what if." "I'm willing to risk it if you are." She should think about this more. Should be rational and careful and protective of everything she'd built. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. He responded immediately, one hand sliding into her hair, the other wrapping around her waist to pull her closer. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deeper as she melted against him. He tasted like wine and possibility, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that since the champagne incident," he admitted. "That was only 3 months ago. Longest 3 months of my life." She laughed and kissed him again, softer this time, savoring it. They left the gallery hand in hand, and when he dropped her off at her door, she invited him in for coffee. They both knew it wasn't really about coffee. They talked until 2 in the morning, curled up on her couch, sharing stories and dreams and fears they'd never told anyone else. He told her about the pressure of living up to his family name, about feeling lonely in rooms full of people. She told him about the terror of single motherhood, about building a business from nothing while surviving on 3 hours of sleep. "You're extraordinary," he said, playing with her fingers. "I'm really not." "You are. You just don't see it yet." When he finally left, it was with a long kiss at her door and plans to see each other Tuesday for dinner. "Just us," he'd said. "Let me take you somewhere nice." "What about Mia?" "Thursday is Mia night. Always will be. But Tuesday can be our night. If you want." She wanted. The next 3 weeks felt like falling. They saw each other twice a week, 3 times if they could manage it. Lawrence integrated seamlessly into her life, showing up at Mia's dance recital with flowers for them both, bringing coffee to Jessica's office when she was working late, learning to braid hair through tutorial videos so he could help Mia when Jessica was on client calls. He met her mother in mid-June. Diane had opinions. "He's white," she said bluntly, after Lawrence left from Sunday dinner. "Inaltichad, ma. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm saying it's a thing. A thing you need to think about." Jessica had been thinking about it. She'd seen the looks when they went out together, the double takes and stares. Some curious, some disapproving. She'd overheard whispers at a restaurant about interracial couples, hadn't missed the way certain people looked at Lawrence like he was committing some kind of betrayal. "Does it bother you?" Jessica asked. Diane was quiet for a long moment. "What bothers me is whether he understands what loving you means. What raising Mia in this world means. Whether he's thought about the conversations he'll need to have, the protection he'll need to provide that goes beyond money. We've talked about it. Talking and living it are different things, baby." Jessica knew her mother was right. But she also knew that Lawrence listened when she talked about race, didn't get defensive or dismissive, asked questions because he genuinely wanted to understand. "I love him, Ma." It was the first time she'd said it out loud. The words hung in the air between them. Diane's expression softened. "Does he love you?" "He hasn't said it yet. But I think so. I hope so. Then I hope he's ready for what that means." The first real crack appeared on June 28, 2024, when Lawrence's mother invited them to a family dinner. Jessica had met Margaret several times by now, always pleasant but slightly distant. This felt different. Official. Like she was being evaluated. "You don't have to go if you're not comfortable," Lawrence said when he asked her. "I want to meet your family. If this is real, I should know them. It's real for me. Then I'll be there." She immediately regretted that decision when she walked into the Sebastian family estate and realized she was underdressed, out of her depth, and the only black person in a room full of Charleston old money. Lawrence's father, Richard Sebastian, was polite but assessing. His sister, Caroline, was friendly in a way that felt performative. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins made pleasant small talk that never quite felt genuine. And then there was Lawrence's ex-fiancée, Victoria, who'd been invited as Caroline's +1. "Interesting," Victoria said, looking Jessica up and down. "Lawrence never mentioned he was seeing someone." "It's recent," Jessica said evenly. "How recent?" "Recent enough." Lawrence appeared at Jessica's side, tension visible in his shoulders. "Victoria. I didn't know you'd be here. Caroline invited me. You don't mind, do you?" "Actually, it's fine," Jessica interrupted, though it wasn't fine at all. "It's nice to meet you." Dinner was excruciating. Jessica sat between Lawrence and his uncle, who spent 20 minutes explaining real estate development to her like she hadn't been successfully marketing developments for years. Across the table, Victoria kept making comments directed at Lawrence, inside jokes and shared memories designed to remind everyone they had history. Margaret watched it all with an unreadable expression. After dinner, Jessica excused herself to the bathroom and took a moment to breathe. When she came out, she heard voices in the hallway. Lawrence and his mother. "She's lovely, darling, but are you sure about this?" "Sure about what?" "A single mother. A business owner. It's very modern, but is it what you need? Someone with responsibilities and complications." "Her responsibilities and complications are part of what I love about her." Jessica's heart stuttered. He'd said love. "And what about Victoria? She's been asking about you. I think she regrets how things ended." "I don't care what Victoria regrets. I've moved on. To someone completely different from your world." "Darling, I'm not trying to be difficult, but have you thought about how this works long term? The cultural differences, the social expectations, the pressure on her daughter. Her name is Mia, mother. And yes, I've thought about all of it. And I love Jessica. I'm falling in love with Mia. Whatever complications that brings, we'll figure it out." Jessica pressed her hand against the wall, steadying herself. He loved her. He'd told his mother before he'd told her. She walked around the corner. "Sorry to interrupt." Margaret had the grace to look embarrassed. "Jessica. We were just. I heard." She looked at Lawrence. "Can we go?" "Absolutely." They made quick goodbyes and left. In the car, silence stretched between them. "I'm sorry," Lawrence finally said. "I should have warned you about my family. About Victoria. Your mother thinks I'm a complication." "My mother thinks everyone is a complication unless they fit her exact specifications for acceptable society. She's not wrong though. I am a complication. Mia is a complication. My business, my schedule, my life doesn't exactly mesh with country club dinners and society expectations. Lawrence pulled over, turning to face her. You're not a complication. You're the first real thing I've had in my life in 6 years. That's not sustainable, Lawrence. Being someone's escape from reality. That's not what I meant. I heard what you told your mother. That you love me. He went still. You weren't supposed to find out that way. How was I supposed to find out? When I got the courage to say it to your face. He took her hand. I love you, Jessica. I'm in love with you. I have been for weeks. Tears pricked her eyes. I love you too. That's the problem. How is that a problem? Because love isn't enough when our worlds are this different. Because I can't subject Mia to family dinners where she's the only little black girl in a room full of people who see her as other. Because eventually, you're going to realize that fitting me into your life is exhausting. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Your ex-fiancé showed up tonight to remind you that there are easier options. Women who already know the rules, who already fit. I don't want easy. I want you. For now. But what about when the newness wears off? When you realize that dating me means dealing with stares and comments and people questioning our relationship everywhere we go? Lawrence's jaw tightened. I'm not scared of that. You should be. Because I am. I'm terrified that I'm falling in love with someone whose world will never fully accept me or my daughter. Then we build our own world. That's a beautiful idea, Lawrence. But I live in reality, not beautiful ideas. I have a daughter who needs stability, not a relationship that might not survive meeting your family. One bad dinner doesn't define our entire future. It's not just one dinner. It's everything that dinner represents. She wiped at her eyes. Maybe your mother is right. Maybe this is too complicated. Don't do this. Don't let one night with my family ruin what we have. I need time to think. About what's best for Mia. About whether I can really do this. Lawrence looked like she'd physically struck him. Jessica, please take me home. The drive back was silent. When they arrived at her building, she got out quickly. I love you, Lawrence said through the open door. That's not going to change. Sometimes love isn't enough. She walked inside before he could respond, before she could see the devastation on his face, before she could change her mind and run back to him. Inside her apartment, Mia was already asleep. Her mother looked up from her book. How was dinner? Jessica collapsed on the couch and started crying. Diane gathered her daughter into her arms and didn't ask questions, just held her while she broke. Outside, Lawrence sat in his car for 20 minutes, staring at her darkened windows, wondering how something that felt so right could fall apart so quickly. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria, great seeing you tonight. Let's have lunch soon. He deleted it without responding and drove home to an empty penthouse that felt emptier than ever. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. Lawrence spent the next week doing exactly what he'd done for 6 years before Jessica, burying himself in work. He arrived at the office at 6 in the morning and left after dark. Took meetings he could have delegated. Reviewed reports that didn't need his attention. Carol watched him with increasing concern but said nothing until Friday afternoon, July 5th, when she found him staring at Mia's drawing still hung on his wall. Mr. Sebastian, you have that fundraiser planning session scheduled for 6 tonight. His stomach dropped. Thursday had come and gone without Jessica. Without Mia. The office had felt wrong all evening, too quiet, missing the sound of crayons on paper and a 5-year-old's commentary on important business matters. Cancel it. Sir, the event is in 2 months. You're already behind schedule. Then I'll hire someone else to finish it. Just cancel the meeting. Carol hesitated at the door. Permission to speak freely? When have you ever asked permission? Whatever happened between you and Ms. Williams, hiding in this office isn't going to fix it. I'm not hiding. You've been here 14 hours a day for a week. You're not eating. You look like you haven't slept. That's not working, sir. That's hiding. Lawrence set down the pen he'd been gripping. She ended it, Carol. What am I supposed to do? Figure out why she really ended it. And whether you're willing to fight for her. After Carol left, Lawrence sat in the silence of his office and forced himself to think past the hurt. To really examine what had happened that night at his family's house. Jessica hadn't ended things because she didn't love him. She'd ended things because she was scared. Because his mother had voiced every doubt she'd already been carrying. Because sitting in that dining room, she'd seen a future where she and Mia would always be outsiders. And instead of reassuring her, instead of showing her that her fears were wrong, he'd gotten defensive. Had minimized her concerns. Had acted like love alone could overcome generations of social expectations and racial dynamics he'd never had to navigate. He pulled out his phone and called someone he should have called days ago. "David, I need advice. Relationship advice." His best friend was quiet for a moment. "This must be serious. You never ask for relationship advice." "I'm in love with someone. I ruined it. I need to fix it." "Start from the beginning." Lawrence told him everything. About Jessica, about Mia, about falling in love for the first time in 6 years with a woman who'd made him remember what living actually felt like. About the disastrous family dinner and the conversation afterward. "So she's a black single mother and you brought her to meet your very white, very old money Charleston family without preparing her for what that would be like," David summarized. "When you say it like that, it sounds bad." "That's because it was bad, man. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking my family would see what I see. How incredible she is. Your family saw a threat to their country club comfort zone. And instead of protecting her from that, you let her walk into it blind." David sighed. "Look, I love you, but you've lived your whole life in a bubble where your biggest problem is which yacht club to join. Jessica's lived her whole life navigating spaces that weren't built for her. You didn't take that seriously enough." The words hit like a punch. "You're right. Of course I'm right. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" Lawrence looked at Mia's drawing again. At the figure she'd labeled Lawrence being important, sitting alone at a desk. "I'm going to show her I understand. Really understand. And then I'm going to fight for us." "Good. Because from everything you've told me, she's worth fighting for." After hanging up, Lawrence made a list. Not a business strategy list. A list of everything he needed to learn, understand, and change if he wanted to be the partner Jessica and Mia deserved. He started reading. Articles about interracial relationships, about raising black children, about the specific challenges Jessica would face that he'd never considered. He called his college roommate, Marcus, who'd been in an interracial marriage for 8 years, and asked questions he should have asked months ago. "The thing is," Marcus told him, "loving someone across racial lines means accepting that you'll never fully understand their experience. But you can listen. You can educate yourself. You can use your privilege to protect them instead of pretending that privilege doesn't exist." Lawrence absorbed every word, feeling more foolish by the hour for thinking love alone was enough. Across town, Jessica was having her own reckoning. Mia had asked about Lawrence every single day since the dinner. "When is Lawrence coming over? Is it Thursday? Is he bringing more coloring books? Did I do something wrong? Is that why he's not here?" That last question had broken Jessica's heart into pieces. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why doesn't he visit anymore? How did you explain adult complications to a 5-year-old? How did you tell your daughter that you'd pushed away someone wonderful because you were too scared to believe wonderful could last?" "Sometimes grown-ups need time to figure things out," Jessica had said, hating how weak it sounded. "But he misses us." "I know he does." "How do you know?" "Because we miss him. And when you miss someone, they miss you back. That's how it works." Jessica wished the world were that simple. Her mother had been less gentle in her assessment. "You're punishing that man for his family's ignorance," Diane said on Tuesday, July 9th, over coffee at Jessica's kitchen table. "I'm protecting Mia." "From what? From a man who clearly loves both of you? Who shows up and puts in effort? Who learned to braid hair from YouTube so he could help her when you're busy? From a family and a world that will never fully accept her." Diane set down her mug with a thud. "Baby, that world already exists. Mia's going to face it whether Lawrence is in her life or not. Question is, do you want her facing it alone, or with a man who loves her like a daughter teaching her she deserves that kind of love? It's not that simple. It never is. But you're making it more complicated than it needs to be." Her mother's expression softened. "I know you're scared. You've been doing this alone for so long, being scared is your default. But that man looked at you like you hung the moon. And more importantly, he looked at Mia the same way. What if it doesn't work out? What if it does? What if you're throwing away the best thing that's happened to you because one dinner with his family was hard?" Jessica had been asking herself the same question for days. That night, after Mia was asleep, she opened her laptop and looked at the fundraiser documents. Lawrence had sent her an email a week ago, professional and brief, saying he understood if she wanted to step back from the project, that he'd pay out the full contract regardless. She'd never responded. Now she opened a new message and started typing, then deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. What was she supposed to say? That she was sorry? That she loved him? That she was terrified of loving him? Her phone rang. "Simone. Stop spiraling and call him," her friend said without preamble. "I'm not spiraling. You've reorganized your office 3 times this week and color-coded files that don't need color coding. You're spiraling. Jessica laughed despite herself. When did you become so observant? I've always been observant. You've just been too busy being Superwoman to notice. Simone's voice gentled. Jess, I've known you for 8 years. I've never seen you as happy as you were these past 2 months. Don't throw that away because you're scared. What if I'm not enough for his world? What if his world isn't enough for you? Did you ever think about that? Maybe the question isn't whether you fit into his life. Maybe it's whether he's willing to build a new life that fits both of you. After they hung up, Jessica sat with those words. She'd spent so much time worrying about fitting into Lawrence's world that she hadn't considered he might be willing to leave that world behind for her. She picked up her phone and pulled up his number. Her thumb hovered over it. Then Mia's voice drifted from her bedroom, sleep-talking. Miss you, Lawrence. Jessica made her decision. On Wednesday morning, July 10th, Lawrence was in a budget meeting when Carol knocked on the conference room door. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. She says it's important. His heart jumped. Who? A very determined 5-year-old and her mother. Lawrence was out of his chair before Carol finished the sentence. Excuse me, he told his confused executive team, and walked out. Jessica and Mia stood in his reception area. Mia was holding a folder, her expression serious. Jessica looked nervous and hopeful and beautiful. Hi, Jessica said softly. He couldn't take his eyes off her. I have something for you, Mia announced, walking over with purpose. She handed him the folder. I made you a presentation. Like the ones Mama makes for work. Lawrence knelt down and opened it. Inside were drawings. The first showed 3 stick figures labeled Mia, Mama, and Lawrence. The second showed them at his office. The third showed them having pizza. The fourth showed them holding hands. The last drawing showed all 3 of them with a house and a dog and hearts floating around them. This is what I want, Mia said, pointing to the last picture. Mama says we can't always get what we want, but you're important and business people make presentations when things are important. So this is my presentation for why you should come back. Lawrence's throat was too tight to speak. He looked up at Jessica, who had tears streaming down her face. She worked on it all night, Jessica managed. Wouldn't go to sleep until it was perfect. He looked back at Mia. This is the best presentation I've ever seen. Does that mean yes? Mia, baby, let me talk to Lawrence for a minute, okay? Jessica said gently. Okay. But say yes, Lawrence. We miss you a lot. Carol, who'd been watching from her desk with barely concealed emotion, stood up. Mia, how would you like to see the view from the big conference room? It's much better than this boring lobby. Mia looked to her mother, who nodded. After they left, Lawrence and Jessica stood facing each other. I'm sorry, they said simultaneously. Jessica laughed, watery and fragile. Let me go first. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I let one bad night make me doubt everything. I'm sorry I didn't trust that what we have is strong enough to handle complications. I'm sorry I didn't prepare you better. Sorry I minimized your concerns. Sorry I didn't understand what I was really asking you to navigate. He stepped closer. I've spent the past week educating myself on everything I should have understood from the beginning. I called friends in interracial relationships. I read everything I could find. I talked to mentors who could tell me the truth about my blind spots. Lawrence. Let me finish. You were right. Love isn't enough by itself. But love plus effort, plus listening, plus commitment to actually changing and growing and being better? That might be enough. I can't change my family overnight, but I can set boundaries with them. I can make sure you and Mia never feel like outsiders again. I can use every bit of privilege I have to protect you both. Jessica was fully crying now. I don't need you to protect me from everything. I just need you to stand beside me. To acknowledge that it's hard. To not dismiss my fears as overreaction. I know. And I will. Every single day, I will. He reached for her hands. I love you, Jessica. I love Mia. I want to build a life with you both. Not the life my family expects or society approves of. Our life. Whatever that looks like. I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Then let's be terrified together. She kissed him, and it felt like coming home. Like finding something she hadn't known she was looking for until it was gone. When they finally broke apart, Mia was standing in the doorway with Carol, both of them grinning. Is that a yes? Mia asked. Lawrence held out his arms and she ran into them. He lifted her up, one arm around her and one around Jessica, holding them both. That's a yes, he said. Definitely yes. Good. Can we have pizza now? Presentations make me hungry. Jessica laughed and buried her face in Lawrence's shoulder, breathing him in, letting herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. Pizza sounds perfect, Lawrence said, kissing the top of Mia's head, then Jessica's forehead. Absolutely perfect. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 2 months later, on September 21, 2024, the night of the fundraiser arrived with perfect Charleston weather, warm evening air, clear skies, and a sunset that painted the harbor in shades of amber and rose. Jessica stood in the grand hall of the Charleston Harbor Resort, watching the final preparations come together. The event had transformed from Lawrence's quiet passion project into something magnificent. 200 guests. A silent auction featuring donated items from local businesses. A program highlighting the women entrepreneurs who'd benefited from the grant fund. And at the center of it all, a man who'd spent 2 months proving that love backed by action could change everything. You did this, Lawrence said, coming up behind her and slipping his arms around her waist. This is all you. She leaned back against him. We did this. Together. Together, he repeated, like he loved the sound of the word. I'm going to use that word as often as possible for the rest of my life. The rest of your life? That's a long time, Mr. Sebastian. Not long enough. He kissed her temple. You look stunning, by the way. Have I mentioned that? Twice in the last hour. But I'll accept it again. She wore a deep emerald dress that Simone had insisted she buy, the kind of dress that made her feel powerful and beautiful and exactly like herself. Lawrence wore a classic black tuxedo, but he'd let Mia pick his bow tie, navy blue with tiny stars, because she declared it made him look magic. Speaking of Mia, she appeared now with Jessica's mother, wearing a navy blue dress that matched Lawrence's bow tie. Mama, there are so many people here. Is this really all for the ladies who started businesses? It really is, baby. That's so cool. When I grow up, I'm going to start a business and someone will throw me a party too. Lawrence crouched down to her level. You can start a business doing anything you want. And I'll be at that party, front row, cheering the loudest. Mia hugged him hard. In the past 2 months, their bond had deepened into something that made Jessica's heart ache in the best way. He'd been to every one of Mia's summer activities, swimming lessons, library story time, the disastrous pottery class where they'd both come home covered in clay. He'd learned to do ponytails and negotiate bedtime and read Goodnight Moon with the exact dramatic flair Mia required. He'd become family. 5 minutes until doors open, the event coordinator called out. Diane squeezed Jessica's hand. I'm proud of you, baby. For all of this. Thanks, Ma. I'm also proud of you for giving that man a real chance. He's good people. Jessica watched Lawrence and Mia examining the silent auction items together, his hand protectively on her daughter's shoulder. Yeah, he really is. The evening unfolded beautifully. Guests arrived in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, but the real stars were the 12 women entrepreneurs featured in the program. They shared stories of struggle and triumph, of dreams deferred and then realized, of the grants that had given them a fighting chance. Lawrence gave a speech that had half the room in tears. My grandmother started our family business with a $500 loan and relentless determination, he said from the podium. She faced obstacles I'll never understand because I was born into privilege she had to fight for. This fund honors her legacy, but more importantly, it honors the legacy of every woman who's been told no, who's been underestimated, who's built something extraordinary despite every barrier placed in her path. His eyes found Jessica in the crowd. I've learned recently that real strength isn't about what you accomplish alone. It's about recognizing when you need help, accepting it with grace, and then turning around to help others climb the same mountain. That's what these women represent. That's what this fund supports. And that's what I'm committed to for the rest of my life. The applause was thunderous. Jessica wiped her eyes, trying not to ruin her makeup. Simone handed her a tissue. He's a keeper. I know. Like, seriously. If you mess this up, I'm dating him. Not helping. After the formal program ended, the party shifted to music and dancing and celebration. Jessica worked the room, thanking sponsors and donors, making sure every detail was perfect. She was talking to a major donor when she felt a tap on her shoulder. Lawrence stood there with his hand extended. Dance with me. I'm working. You've been working all night. Dance with me for 3 minutes. Please. She let him lead her to the dance floor, where other couples were swaying to a jazz quartet. He pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other cradling hers. Thank you, he said softly, for giving me another chance. For trusting me. For letting me be part of your life. Thank you for fighting for us. For doing the work. For showing up every single day. I'm going to keep showing up. For you and Mia. Whatever you need. Jessica promised to let him in, to trust that he wouldn't leave when things got hard, to build a life together that honored both of them. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Mia cheered louder than anyone. The reception was joy incarnate, good food, better music, and toasts that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure. "To my daughter," Diane said, raising her glass, "who taught me that love doesn't always look like what we expect, but it's always worth the risk." And to Lawrence, who proved that showing up and doing the work is the greatest love language there is. Later, as they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Jessica looked up at Lawrence and smiled. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That 6 months ago, you were a lonely billionaire CEO. And now you're a husband and a father with a very opinionated 5-year-old who thinks you hung the moon. Best career change I ever made. It's not a career, it's a family. Even better." He spun her, then pulled her close. "Thank you for turning my lonely world upside down. Thank you for letting me." They kissed, and somewhere in the background, Mia's voice carried, "That's my mama and my daddy and they're kissing because they love each other. It's very romantic." Jessica laughed against Lawrence's lips. "We should probably—" "1 more minute," he murmured. "Let me have 1 more minute of just us." She gave him that minute, and 1,000 more besides. Because they had time now. They had forever. And that was more than enough. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next.